Hi guys, welcome to another episode. Today we're going to talk about controlling a 7-strokes field. Controlling odd time fields sometimes can be hard because they don't develop in a regular time frame, especially when we play in a 4/4 situation. So it is good for us to spend some time and understand and learn to hear and control this type of fields, which I really like because it kind of gives you that odd time feeling that then goes back into one when you close it, and it's just kind of like it gets out of the bars and then back in. So I really like it. You can become very creative with it. We're going to see how to develop and to learn to hear this, and then a few variations that we can use to start to be creative, and then of course you guys will come up with your own ideas once you have the perfect control of this field. So first of all, we have to learn to literally hear the 7 strokes, so we can either just accent the first stroke every 7 or divide the accents so that we have a better structure, and that can help us hearing this. So let's start playing this on the snare and see how this sounds like. Okay, so it's so we can see how already just keeping the single strokes going, we start one time with the right hand and one time with the left hand. We can change the sticking, and we can do this while we're working on this, so that maybe we can have a easier sticking to start with, especially when we start to put this in a regular 4/4 bar, so that it doesn't confuse us too much. But for now, let's see what I meant by adding accents so that we have a better structure to work on. If for example, I accent the 3 right hands and then the 3 left hands, it's going to be a little bit more easier for me to start to control this. It will sound like this. Okay, it's going to be easier for a matter of every right hand that I will play before changing the hand is going to be accent. So if, for example, I move my hands, the accent hand on the floor tom and my left on the tom, it will sound like this. Okay, so I can start hearing and counting 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1. So the reason why it becomes a little bit easier, it's because there's less space and less time to think of the switching. So I don't have to think 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 7, 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 7. But it's going to be 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. So in your head, it just gets easier. Or we can change the sticking so that we don't have to start with different hands every time, and we'll just play regular single notes, and then the double ghost note we'll play just with our left hand, so in this way. Okay, so in this way, even if we speed this up, it's going to be a little bit easier because there won't be too much motion in changing the hands and changing the accents. So for example, if we speed this up a lot, it will sound like this. Okay, great. So now we kind of know how the 7 strokes sound. It's going to be 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. But what if we have to put this in a regular time frame? So let's start keeping the hi-hat, the quarter notes on hi-hat, and when the four measures are done, we will have to go back on one with our hands. So we won't continue endlessly in repeating this, but when the fourth bar ends, we have to then close our 7-stroke rolls so that it closes on one. So in this way. So I know that if I want this 7 strokes exactly in a 4/4 measure, it will sound like this. And then it will repeat. So I will have to memorize this and start to work on this. This is going to be like my 7 strokes. This is controlling a 7-stroke feel in a 4-measure space. So it's going to sound like this. So it's going to be 3 accent with my right hand, 3 accent with my left, and 1 accent with my right, and then it'll repeat. So okay. So from here I can start working on the stickings as I was doing before. So now I was just playing single strokes and then alternating my hands. If I keep the sticking always starting with my right hand, it will sound like this. Okay, so just by changing the accent, moving the accents around the kit, between my floor tom and the snare, I start to create some kind of phrases and some kind of like movement in the fill. And this is just like a very simple and basic sticking an idea, just accenting the 1, 2, 3 right hand strokes, moving them around. So this already creates a kind of like a nice and odd feeling on the fill. So it's a fill that we can really develop and take to wherever we want once we can control this. The next step was going to be adding the bass drum to this fill and start to understand how we can develop a 7 strokes linear fill on this. For example, we can alternate the accents that we play and we play the ghost notes with our kick. So in this way. Okay, so doing this, we already have a very nice feel and a very nice idea that we can really, for example, if we speed this up and we put it in a regular frame, in a regular time frame, this will start to sound like a very difficult thing, a very weird and odd thing. Instead, it's pretty simple, as we just saw. It's just alternating our hand and foot and playing a double stroke when we have to play the 6 and 7 strokes with our bass drum. So speeding this up, it will start to sound like this. Okay, so a very nice effect that we can start using. Let's put this now in a regular time frame and start to control it in a 4 measures situation. So also here I can see how I will start once with my right hand and once with my left hand. And if you didn't notice this, I will now play the one of the 4/4 measures with my feet on the floor tom and then on the first tom with my left hand, so that you guys can hear this better and understand what I meant. Okay, so now I know in my head, for example, for this idea, to put it in a 4/4 measure, it will sound like this. Once I'm here, I can move this around the kit and just have so many variations based on the one sticking, working on a 7 strokes linear field. It's like already an endless, you already have endless opportunity of using this, changing it, making it sound like many different things. Instead, you're just playing the same thing over and over again, and you control one thing, but it's just it can vary so much that it can give you all this effect, musical effect, that I think it's very cool. So now we can start moving this around, moving one hand at a time. For example, I can start moving my right hand to the floor tom and then my left hand on the first tom and see how this would sound. Okay, and then for example, we can also use this on cymbals, like adding a cymbal and playing, instead of a linear feel, we can play just accenting with the bass drum, whatever we do with our right hand. So for example, something like this. When we speed this up, it will sound something like this. Okay, so then introducing this in a groove and something that could be like a metal context, or then of course you can use this in any context as you can hear. But for a more metal groovy type of situation, we could do something, we could use it in this way. Okay, so these are just a few ideas that you can come up with, and these are actually very simple and basic ideas, and a simple way of developing this 7 strokes feel. You can of course go on with this and make it something completely different. You can put this in other linear phrases that you're playing, so just adding it to your vocabulary. It's just a new word and a new sticking and thing that we hear that we can work on. So the only technical thing that you might want to see in this, it's the double stroke with the foot, in which I use, as usual, the slide technique. So when I play the foot pattern, it sounds, and it's something like this. So it's just regular single strokes with a double stroke in between to play the 6th and the 7th stroke of the linear field. So that might just be the only thing that can cause a little bit of troubles playing it and executing this feel, but for the rest it's pretty simple. It's pretty much all leg and arm motion, even when you speed it up a lot. So have fun, and I'll see you next time.